Let's give her a hand. Eugene is a beautiful place. All right. Well, I was going to tell you about my trip, but it's so long I'll wait till next week. All right? Because today we have to talk about Lent. And one of the things that occurred to me years ago, back when I was young, I spent 2 years in Brindisi, Italy, in an Air Force base. I was an Air Force wife. That's where Anthony and Cleopatra met. It sounds much more romantic than the base actually was. But there's a modern day story that took place in that same area, a quaint little place. That this woman rescued dogs, right? And one of the dogs was so grateful to be rescued that wherever she went, the dog would follow her. She went shopping, the dog went shopping. Every day she went to daily mass. The dog went with her, and she sat right up front. Some people are brave and sit up front. She went right up front, and the dog came with her and sat right with her through daily mass every day. Well, the woman passes on, and they have her funeral. And at her funeral, the dog walks in and sits right in front. And they let him. And every day after that daily mass, the dog was always right there in front. From then on, it kept on going because that was its habit. And the priest got so he couldn't do without the dog sitting in front there. Now, I read that story and I thought that's really sweet, especially if it's about a dog. But when we humans get stuck in habitual habits, when we humans can't move on and can't change, not all habits are that sweet. We keep doing the same thing over and over again like Groundhog's Day. And we become stuck. You know, our mind loves habitual thinking. And we think the same way over and over again. And it keeps us in mental bondage. Well, last week was Ash Wednesday. Lent has begun. Thank God we don't have to give up candy anymore. But we have 40 days of letting go of all that no longer serves us. Because the only way to rise up to a higher, more joyous, fulfilled life is to let go. That higher life is always here. Jesus said, the kingdom of God is among you. But we can't see it because we're in that lower vibrational state of mind. And that's why Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, said, give up those old thoughts that keep us in a lower state of mind and resurrect to a higher state of mind. But you can't go up without doing what? Letting go. Now, you're going to hear this a lot this year. 25 years of ministry. And I only had one time where I got chewed out so much after a message. Oh, one woman was so mad at me. And I thought I was listening to Spirit. Now, some people liked the message. One person said it was my best message. Another person said it felt like I was giving them a spiritual spanking, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I thought I had listened to Spirit. Maybe I embellished it with a little too much passion. But it was Lent that year too. And I'll never forget, I prayed and asked God, what should I speak about for Lent? And I don't know, maybe it was my own ego's voice. I thought it was Spirit's voice. What I heard very clearly was, get over it, get beyond it, and get on with it. You can see why that might not have gone over. And I always go back to the same thing. At Unity Village, when I lived there for how many years, we always used to say to each other, the truth will set you free, but first it pisses you off. And that's what happened to that lady. Man, she chewed me out. You know, most of us are not aware of the power of our consciousness that really does help to create a reality. Now, it's not the only thing. I don't go by, oh, your thought created that awful thing. There's more to it than that. But individually and collectively, our state of mind does have an effect on us. And we can no longer hold on as both individuals and as a country and as the world. We can't hold on to those old states of mind. The limited negative thinking, the unforgiveness and resentments, the fears and the doubts, the judgments, the racism, the stuck states of mind have got to go for us to rise up. I don't think we have so much time anymore, and maybe that's why I was so passionate about get over it, get beyond it, and get on with it. Reality is not solid. Quantum physics has taught us that. Reality is fluid. It's changeable, and we can affect that change. We subscribe to Gaia, which is sort of a new thought, new agey television program. And they talk a lot about quantum physics. We watched Regina Meredith interview Paul Levy one day, who's an author. And he was an interesting man because he had had a real spiritual experience. Some trauma happened to him. And often with trauma, people, it jolts them into this spiritual awakening. And he came back from that, and he was telling his family about what reality really is and how we create. And they literally called the ambulance and had him hauled away. That happens to people when you see what reality really is, and people can't always handle that. So they literally, put him away. And he had to really pretend to be well in order to get out of there. But interesting story he had. But he quoted one of the books that we read in ministerial school that talked about this effect. It's called Spiritual Emergence. And often a spiritual emergency, which is like the dark night of the soul, can lead to a spiritual emergence. And that phrase was coined by Stanislav and Christina Grove, who wrote the book, The Stormy Search for Self, A Guide to Personal Growth Through Transformational Crisis. And how those spiritual breakthroughs can appear psychotic to people that are watching the person and what they've just realized. And often, I don't want to say we have to have trauma, I don't believe that, but often trauma can lead to that Kundalini awakening, where all of a sudden we awaken and see the reality. And spiritual energy of the Kundalini is very much like electrical waves, and it releases the flows of electrons from the higher energies to the lower, and people suddenly have this awakening experience. And that's why many saints were called crazy by their friends and families. They awoke to how reality is really created. I had a friend in another state who had the same thing happen. He had one of those near-death knock-on-the-heads kind of experience, and he came to and he started telling his wife what he was seeing and what he knew to be true, and she literally was about to haul him away. And he had to stop. He had to stop talking about it because he could tell she didn't get it. So many of you know the channeling of Abraham through Esther Hicks. And she talked about this, how creation is all about electromagnetics, for those who like to get into the science of it. And if you can even think of the electro as being the thoughts, and the magnetics being the feelings. And Abraham said, that which is like unto itself is drawn. So the vibration of your being must match the vibration of your desire in order for your desire to be fully received by you. In other words, whatever it is you desire, you have to have the vibrational energy of that desire. So that means for us as a culture, as individuals, if we want to see that awakening presence on the planet, we have to start to live it and to be it and to focus on that so that we can bring that vibration into reality on the earth plane. And quantum physics has been a great gift to us, teaching what unity has taught for a long time. Now it's something new, that we are only one presence, one power in this collective dream, all interconnected with each other. Lynn and George and I, as most businesses now, to keep our license, we needed to go to a diversity training every 2 years. And so the three of us drove up to Phoenix in the rain the other week, and we had a wonderful day of this diversity training. And we had, a group of us were all in a circle talking, and somehow the conversation got into the fear and negativity of all the current acceptance of racism, and everybody got caught up into talking about it. And finally one woman of color raised her hand and she said, Now wait a minute, as awful as this current situation is, she said, I'm really glad it's happening because people have said racism doesn't exist. But she said it's bringing it up and now we have to deal with it. And she said it's not going to be dealt with on the top, but individuals. And she said, I've noticed people are starting to be kinder to me. People are smiling at me now when I walk down the street. And all of us got caught up in her vision and said, yeah, we've noticed that. People are being kinder to each other, trying to make it happen from the bottom up, from each of us individually, helping each other. So you can see how empowered we are to use and harness this power of the collective to conceptualize what we want our future to be. Together to conceptualize a higher world that Jesus talked about. A world of light and love and peace and harmony. And as quantum physics says, through the art of observing, the outcome will be affected. However we choose to focus right now on the awful stuff that's going on, or how we want to see it, will affect our consciousness, shapes the future. So we've been doing this unconsciously without knowing it. Now we have to do it consciously. All of us conceptualizing the future. Minds are like computers. Whatever we're programmed with continues to run unless reprogrammed. And racism is one of those programs that has been in collective consciousness. And now we're, again, get over it, get beyond it, get on with it, release and let go, and allow that new programming to come forth. And change is not always easy. Don't we like our comfort zones? I've been traveling all week. I got home in my own bed last night and it was like, yes, I like my comfort. And I like my habits. I have a cup of coffee with Michael every morning. I like my habits. Knowing what's coming up next feels real good. I know what's going to happen in the next 3 hours. Doesn't that feel good? But in Lent, we're told to get over that, get on with it, move beyond it. There's more, there's more. There's a higher way of being. And Lent is a great opportunity to clean the house of consciousness. There's a new television show now about, have many of you seen the cute little lady who goes to people's homes and helps them clear their clutter? I watched it once and I spent the rest of the day cleaning clutter, folding my clothes. The agony people had on that show. People were literally crying as they were trying to clear their clutter. People were in agony because the clutter out there matches the clutter in here. And it was all the stuff they'd been holding on to. And now as they had to release it out there, they had to deal with it in there. It was amazing to watch the inner and the outer and how connected that was. Carl Jung coined the phrase collective consciousness and collective unconscious. He said collective consciousness is a set of shared beliefs and moral attitudes which operate as a unifying force within society. And so the good news of the current state of affairs is that there's incentive now to collectively, not up there, but to collectively change the planet through love, through acts of kindness, through mercy. You know, the Course in Miracles always says, we are never alone in our thoughts. Now that'll keep you up till 3 in the morning if you think about it. Every thought you're thinking, you are not alone. It's affecting the whole. And we can either put out thoughts and words that build up or that tear down. Each thought, each word affects mass consciousness. So would you agree with me? Let's start to conceptualize the future and what it can be. How would you like it to be? Me, I'd love it to be everybody just constantly doing random acts of kindness. Living as one, working together, helping each other. But before we can go that high, what do we have to do? Get over it, get beyond it, and get on with it. And if anybody's upset that I said that today, stand in line here to tell me. I'll be over there. But you can stand in line and check me out. The fun thing about it, when we do let go, it feels so good. When we finally get over it, we're free. And the light can flow in and through us and lift us up to a higher reality. So let's just close our eyes for a moment and conceptualize together that world of light and love. The manifestation of the one presence, the one power. Yes, we see the diversity, we honor it, and we also know the deeper, deeper oneness that we share. Divine light in expression. Divine loving moving from person to person, igniting the spirit of light and love and joy. We are one, we are whole, we are love, we are divine, and we say thank you, Father, Mother, God, in the deepest nature of the living Christ within us all. And so it is. Amen.